Hey ladies, welcome back to the show. On our episode today, we are going to talk about disappointment, and specifically disappointment when it comes to our health, wellness, self-care goals, and really any goal that you may have that you're working on. When you are working towards a goal and maybe you're not getting there as quick as you want, you've gotten derailed along the way, and how do you manage this feeling and continue to progress forward when it comes to achieving your goals? Last week we talked about focusing on the journey rather than the destination, and we're going to build upon that a little bit this week. That we're going to really talk about setting expectations that are realistic, looking at what kind of mindset you have, and how you're able to navigate your path with resilience and to continue taking action towards the goal that you're trying to achieve. And to know that disappointment is a common emotion that is part of the process when it comes to making any behavior change, but how do you deal with it so that you don't give up completely and that you still continue to make progress? Before we start the episode, I want to remind you that I have a freebie that you can grab in the show notes. And if you're over 40, it's all of the things that you should be doing, or at least 5 things you should be doing if you're over 40 to preserve your health as you get older. Welcome to the Whole Health Empowerment Project podcast. This show is for women over 40 who are trying to create balance in their life when it comes to food, body, self-care, and wellness. You struggle to put yourself first, to maintain consistency when something isn't perfect, or maybe you feel like you don't have enough time or willpower to achieve the goals you desire. I'm your host, Trisha Stefankowitz, registered dietitian, nutritionist. I've worked with women like you achieve their goals by focusing on the next best step, no matter how messy, and meeting you where you are right now. In this show, you'll learn practical information, actionable strategies, and mindset tweaks so that you can feel healthier, more comfortable in your body, and make choices that work for your life. Come join me in failing forward, one imperfect step at a time, into the journey of health, wellness, and self-care. Welcome to your new project. Now let's talk about this idea of disappointment, this common emotion that we've all felt with any change or any progress of change or any forward action that we're trying to take when it comes to making a change in our life, whatever that change is for you. So much of the time, we don't anticipate that we're going to feel disappointment. And then when we feel that common emotion, we get it can take us in many different ways, where maybe it can take us that we kind of keep pushing forward, or maybe it derails us totally and then we just completely stop what we're doing. And I see that a lot when I counsel patients, and then also for my own life, that it feels like sometimes you're putting all this effort in and then there is not the reward in the way that you wanted it to be. And so this is a follow-up from our episode last week where we talked about really focusing on the journey of it and not the destination. And we're going to add a little bit more context today. So when we talk about that, embracing the journey, one of the most effective ways that we can really try to handle disappointment is to shift your focus from what the outcome is to the process that you're doing every day. And this is the number one thing I would say that is going to help you. And again, last week's episode is based on all of this. So I'm only going to talk about this for a little bit. But a lot of times we are so focused on the outcome and we're less focused on the behaviors that it's really hard to get to the outcome if we don't focus on the things that we need to do every day. So instead of setting goals based solely on what you want the outcome to be, start to set goals with the actions that you can do today and the behaviors that you can do today to get to the outcome that you desire. So, for instance, we talked a lot about this last week's episode of this idea that for like 99% of women, the goal is weight loss. So, rather than focusing on just weight loss, when you can get to weight loss with lots of different pathways, including pathways that aren't going to lead to long term sustainable goals, start thinking of the things that you can do that you're already doing today, that you can add upon, that you can maintain consistency with, that will take you to the outcome that you desire. So rather than just focusing on weight loss as a target, focusing on the things that you can do to continue the progress towards what the outcome is. And why I say weight loss is I think this is most people in the world have this desire for weight loss. But what I'm starting to realize, and perhaps you are too, is that as you start to get over 40, and your world is different and life is different than when you were maybe in your 20s and 30s. Weight loss seems to be different with women in particular, where it might not just be weight loss, it might be that you want to feel like you used to feel, you want to feel more energy. You want to be stronger so that you can lift your kids or your grandkids. Maybe you are focusing on what you want life to look like in the future. At this point in time, people are starting to get, or at least become more at risk for different diseases. You could be either just having a baby more in your fertile stage, perimenopause, or going into menopause. So all of these things are going to happen in the process. And I think this is such a pivotal point in our lives that the focus, although we may say, sure, we want weight loss, but there's so many other things in there that we can do to manage all of those things that may not be weight loss, or if maybe we can do things on a daily basis to wrangle in all the other things that we're worried about, then we can get to the goal of weight loss. But maybe there's some things that as you get older may not be as important as weight loss. So it's trying to really figure out how to be present in the moment and to figure out what it is that you're working towards right now. Are you working to get stronger? Are you at risk for diabetes or you have high blood pressure? Well, what's going to be more important is probably not just the weight loss, but how you're eating and the behaviors that you do on a daily basis. So if you can start to rein them in and really start to figure out how to manage those conditions, then the ultimate result that you want to get is going to be weight loss. You'll probably be able to achieve that if you can focus on those smaller goals, be very consistent with them, and then add on to them. I also think about this in terms of like if you're trying to get stronger. Like I think we all do this thing where we want weight loss, but there's all these other things that we want more or that will have more of an impact. And if you're not doing these things on a daily basis, you're not going to achieve the short-term goal or the long-term goal. So when I was just saying, talking about strength, it's the same thing. It's like you're not all of a sudden just going to get strong. You have to make these little changes. And then as your muscles become more adapted to what it is that you're trying to do, you can get stronger. You may not fatigue as easily. And you will continue to keep working on those things more regularly because you can see the results of what you're doing because you may feel stronger, you may look differently, your clothes may feel better. And the thing with weight loss is that, sure, you may have some of those along the way, but just like being muscular or increasing your strength, you have to do behaviors most days of the week to get to that goal that you want. And you have to recognize that there's going to be these little things along the way, especially these smaller wins along the way, that's going to help keep you engaged and moving forward. Because you can achieve the goal that you want, but the goal is that you're achieving it for the long term, and so that it becomes part of who you are as part of your identity. And the less you practice it, the less that's going to happen. You're probably going to find yourself in this all or nothing kind of momentum where you're on and off the wagon in terms of doing the behaviors. So, what's going to probably make the most impact is to do the things, do the behaviors of what you need to do daily, and to celebrate those wins, because as you keep doing them and as you acknowledge what you've done and what progress you've had, this is going to allow you to see the milestones that have happened along the way. And this is what's going to keep you motivated to continue to take action. That sense of accomplishment in doing the things and practicing those things over and over again are going to be the things that are going to keep you going. Not this idea of motivation, which is going to come and go, but rather doing the behavior. You're going to start to feel these little tiny nuances and these victories that are going to keep you motivated, keep you regularly taking action, and help you get to the bigger goal that you are trying to achieve. And so I would say that's the first thing, is embrace the journey, which I think can be one of the hardest things to do, because when you're feeling disappointed or you're feeling like you failed, it's very easy to kind of get sucked down that pathway and to not proceed forward. But knowing that all of these emotions are really normal, they're really part of the process. And this is going to feed into the second thing, which I think is really important to understand, that this idea of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So for the number 2 thing in terms of how to avoid disappointment with your outcomes, really starting to figure out where you are when it comes to your mindset. The 2 books I talk about the most on here that I think have made the biggest impact on my life when it comes to behavior change, and I refer to them often, are Atomic Habits by James Clear and This Idea of a Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. And you could probably YouTube Carol Dweck. I think she might even have a TED Talk. And the book she's a professor, so it comes from her research. So that's kind of how the book is written. But the gist of it is that there is a limited mindset, or really called a fixed mindset, and then something else called a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset is this idea, and I'm paraphrasing, she's going to be much more precise, that we don't think that we don't really think that we can have growth. And we avoid challenges and we avoid discomfort. And I personally think that as we get older, or at some period in our life feels so hard. At least I feel this way. And I can have times in my life where I look back that I don't want to learn something new because everything already feels hard. But with this fixed mindset, we give up easily. We want the reward of what it is, but we don't really want to put the effort into it. And I certainly feel like I have things in my life right now that are like more growth oriented, and then parts of my brain on things that I'm scared about, like my business, I would say that I can be a little bit more fixed for that. So maybe you find yourself in that juxtaposition as well. So then Dr. Dweck talks a lot about this growth mindset where we're more willing to be challenged. We keep working towards our goal. And we know that with effort, there will be a reward, but we don't know how much effort it's going to take to get to that reward. And this growth mindset is the belief that our abilities and the intelligence and the experiences that we have can all be developed through hard work and dedication, that you can have what it is that somebody else has too. And the fixed mindset is like, oh, this person has this, I wish I could have it. And then the growth mindset is like, yeah, I can have it, but I have to do the things that I need to do. And I can do the things that I need to do to get where I want to be. And why growth mindset is something that is just so important is with anything that you're trying to change, with anything in your life, whether it be wellness, whether it be your finances, there's always going to be a setback. We think a lot of times, especially with our health, that everything is always going to be, we're always going to be moving forward. And that's not how any change occurs. It's usually We go forward, we go back. We go forward, we go back. And if we don't have that acknowledgement that that's really how it goes, and we have the expectation that we will always be moving forward, then when we have a time that we go backwards, or we have a disappointment or a setback or a failure, we're not going to be able to learn from them, and we may actually stop doing what we're doing. And that's more your fixed mindset. However, if you can see as you're going into a new change, like, okay, I'm going to be moving forward. I'm going to be moving backwards. People are going to tell me no. I'm going to not like that. There's going to be things that are going to be really hard for me, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Well, then you can start to see them that that's part of the process. And you can start to know that that's an opportunity for growth for you. And it's an opportunity for discomfort. And listen, I don't like discomfort. I probably hate discomfort more than most people, but you kind of have to go through that in order to get to the other side of what you want to achieve. So with the growth mindset, it's asking yourself what you can learn from the experience and how you can improve it. And to not take it personally, and to not feel like it's only happening to you, because I guarantee you the people who are making the progress that you want to achieve are having those setbacks, but maybe are having them in a different way than you might be. Or also seeing that sometimes with this growth mindset, I feel like, and I'm not a therapist, I'm just talking from my own life experiences, but sometimes I see that I have to keep doing something and failing at it until I actually see it as a problem and make shifts and make changes, and not keep doing the same thing over and over again. And the only reason I've even had insight into that is because I've been doing therapy. And so for you, it's just important to know that that is part of the progress, and to know that that's normal. And by doing that and moving forward, even when it feels really hard or it feels like you're having setbacks, that's where you're going to cultivate resilience. And that's what's going to help you reduce the impact of disappointment, because you're going to see, like, oh, this is normal. And to know that someone else may have a different setback for you, but maybe that was the setback that they needed in order to move forward. We're all in this together, but we all have different things and disappointments and failures that we need to move through differently. And so where you're going to have the most growth and what's going to help you the most to move forward is to understand that setbacks are a natural part of any journey, but that if you're able to keep taking action, and it doesn't have to be big action, it is the smallest action that you can take, or the next best step that you can take, these are going to be the things that overcome challenges. Before I started really kind of diving into this stuff with setbacks, I am a perfectionist. So I always like to be moving forward. And perhaps you're like that too. But it was very hard for me to realize that it was really part of the journey to have these setbacks. And so what would happen was that I would then just stop frozen because I didn't know how to move forward. And now that I'm practicing a little bit more, and again, I have some areas in my life that it's easier to do and some that it's harder. So I'm working on all of that, probably just like you are too. And so what I realized though is that I don't have to completely freeze and stop, that I can take a teeny tiny action today, a teeny tiny step towards something. And if I just keep taking that teeny tiny step, even if it's going to maybe delay when I get there, it's better than not doing anything at all. And it allows me to feel like I'm still partaking and doing something with the goal that I'm trying to achieve. And so I encourage you today, if there's something that you've given up on because you feel like, oh my gosh, I failed, I don't know how many times I can do it again, that just take one teeny tiny step towards action and keep repeating it. And over time, the more regularly you do it, you're going to feel a little bit more like, okay, I think I got this. Oh my gosh, I think I can do it. And it'll help you anticipate the times when it feels harder or you feel disappointed, because you know that there will be progress in your future if you don't give up completely. So, really knowing that this is normal and that you can persist no matter how many setbacks you have, that the real thing that you can do is just to take some form of action in the direction that you're hoping to get to, no matter how small it may seem. It's going to keep you in a place that you feel like, okay, I may not be doing a lot, but I'm doing something. And I think that's a much more important place to be than feeling completely hopeless that nothing that you do matters. The third thing I would say is to set realistic expectations in what it is that you're trying to do so that you can avoid disappointment. A lot of times with social media, one of my things that I feel like can be so difficult in managing is when you see these people that are having all of the changes that you desire. So, for instance, I'll use weight loss again because I feel like you are mostly women and this is the goal, is that a lot of times you may be doing things that you feel like are really working towards that goal of weight loss. Then you see somebody, a celebrity, that has started their journey after you and has achieved the goal of weight loss much more than maybe you have, and over a very short period of time. But I want you to manage the expectations here because you have no idea what they're doing to get to the goal that they have achieved. I saw something on social media, and I'm trying to not watch as much social media because I feel like for myself, my expectations become a little bit more clouded. And it's very easy for me to get disappointed if I'm watching a lot of it. But I watched something and it was so funny. It was like all of these celebrities that are on some kind of weight loss medication. And basically the reasons that they've said that they've lost weight, not at all disclosing that they're on weight loss medications. And it's usually like, oh my gosh, I started gardening, or I've had kids and I've just lost weight from running around with them, or, oh, I just started walking in my neighborhood. Now that can be really hard to manage since I suspect you're doing all three of those things and it's maybe keeping you where you are. And so the difference here is to know that they're probably on something that is speeding up their results, not even including the luxuries that they have that most people don't. So I don't want you to set up an expectation with someone like that because there's probably a lot of things that are not being disclosed in that post. And I think it's very easy to be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all of those things. Why am I not getting to that goal? So let's talk about what is realistic for you. Early on in this podcast, I did an episode on SMART goals, and I'll try to put it in the show notes. But essentially knowing what SMART goals are, they are goals that are really specific to what you want, measuring those as a way to keep you on track, things that are achievable, relevant, and time bound. So, for instance, being very clear with what it is you're trying to achieve. Your bigger goal might be weight loss, but really tying those, or really trying to figure out what can you do weekly and daily to get to that goal and being able to measure it. So instead of saying, I'm going to walk a couple times this week, being really specific. I'm going to walk Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I am going to walk for a half an hour. I am going to do it at 4 o'clock every day. That is going to be much more precise, and that's going to be much more realistic. And that's going to help you really see why you are or are not making progress. And that's not going to account for everything. But certainly if you are feeling like you're disappointed with not achieving your goal, then you can look back at what you set for the beginning of the week and then look at the end of the week and see if you did the things that you said that you were going to do. And some of this too is being showing up for yourself and teaching yourself how to show up for yourself. And another thing here that comes with these setting realistic expectations is you're focusing on your progress. You're not focusing on perfection. If you focus on perfection, you're going to get derailed every single part of the journey because, again, it's not going to be always forward bound, it's going to be back and forth. And so you're aiming to have this step towards achievement, even if it's not perfect. So if you have decided that you were going to wake up and you were going to exercise for an hour, but maybe you woke up late and you can only get 15 minutes in, you do the 15 minutes because you're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to show up for yourself and you're trying to do something because something is always better than nothing. And part of that, having these realistic expectations, is not that it's going to be perfect and you're not always going to be able to do the things that you said that you were going to do, and how you can be flexible and adapt with that, because that's what's going to keep you going, not if you just stop doing it altogether. So we've talked about embracing the journey. We've talked about adopting a growth mindset. We've talked about this idea of seeing setbacks as opportunity and setting realistic expectations. The last two that we're going to talk about is practicing some kind of gratitude and then also maintaining flexibility. So let's dive into the maintaining flexibility first, and since that's kind of what we just talked about, this idea that you have to be flexible and open to changes that are going to come along the way to help you adapt and to help you not feel like you're giving up completely and that you're still making progress. With the example that I just used with you wanted to work out for 60 minutes, you were only to do 15 minutes. That's an example of being flexible and open to change according to how the day is. In our mind, we think that, oh, it's going to be so easy to do this on this and this day, but life gets in the way. That's just how life is. And so this idea that you can understand that plans are going to change and that that's okay. But instead of viewing that as a failure or a disappointment, you can reframe it as a stepping stone and that you're still on track to get to the goal that you desire. And on days like this, when you feel like you have to adapt or it's not the way that you wanted it to be, this is where I would say to look at the bigger picture and to understand that any of the setbacks you're having are temporary, and that even if you're not doing what you need to do today, if you do something, it's still going to work towards your bigger picture. It may not get you there as fast, but it's still going to be progress. And I think this will probably really help you focus on the overall journey and that you are making progress and taking action, the growth that you are really trying to and that you're working towards. The other thing here is that I think this will help you keep moving forward when you are able to maintain that flexibility, adjust, adapt, and reframe any of the outcomes. So instead of saying, gosh, I only did 15 minutes today instead of 60, kind of getting in that mindset of like, all right, but I did something where maybe before I would have done nothing. And that might come easily to you, or that might feel weird to say to yourself at first, but I think it's like, at least I'm doing something and I'm moving forward. And then the next day you do something different. And honestly, you may have weeks where that's how your whole week is. But then that allows you to readjust and figure out like, okay, am I going to keep doing that for the next couple weeks? Or am I able to do something different in my schedule? So it really allows you to reassess what your goals are, make adjustments, and figure out what you can do to stay aligned with the goal that you want to achieve. And then lastly, let's talk about gratitude. Practicing gratitude is one of the things that I think is really the biggest way to reduce your feelings of disappointment. Practicing gratitude is important for a multitude of reasons, but I think one of the biggest things with gratitude is that it allows you to be mindful and to be open to the present and to appreciate all that you have, all that you've done, all the progress that you've made. It allows you to recognize and appreciate the effort that you've put into your goal, regardless of the outcomes where you are today. And it allows you to be grateful for the shifts that you've made. A lot of times when we're so focused on what the outcome is, I think we forget that there are these little subtle changes that we're making every day. And I think it's important to recognize those things because with any opportunity of growth, we may be like so super psyched about the outcome, but it's these little things along the way that you're learning that you needed to learn and that you figured out. They're That's pretty amazing, and you're learning a lot about yourself. So it's really remembering what it is that you've done, knowing that there were difficulties, that maybe you were only able to work out for 15 minutes, but how amazing is that? And also to be grateful for the things that you have in your life. When we are so focused on social media or what other people have, it doesn't allow us to be appreciative of the things that we take for granted. And really being in a place of mindfulness or practicing gratitude will be really helpful for you to remind you of what you have today and not compare yourself to other people. It's going to help your mental health, and it's going to allow you to stay in target with what it is you're trying to achieve, because everybody's life is unique and different things are important to them. But I think it also allows you to just, I don't know, for me, I can be in a place where I feel really like, oh gosh, I did nothing today. And then if I go back and look at my day and really start to think about all the things that I have, gosh, there's nothing more enlightening than practicing gratitude, because all of the little things that we take for granted, when you're really practicing that, you can see all the things that you have in your life to be grateful for and how wonderful you are. So I would say to lastly, practice gratitude, because I think it will help you avoid disappointment for the long term and to see you for who you are and the things that are unique to you and the things that you have in your life that other people don't have and that you can be grateful for. So as we end this episode, I want to remind you that disappointment is an emotion that is probably part of the journey for most people. It's a natural part of life. And even though you feel the feelings, it doesn't mean it has to derail your progress to your goal. By embracing the journey and adopting this change in your mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Again, if you are more interested in that, you can read Carol Dweck's book, Setting Realistic Expectations of What You Can Achieve versus thinking that you can't have what somebody else wants, or setting expectations based on celebrities out there that have different resources and are probably doing things a different way than you would achieve them. By being adaptable and flexible and practicing gratitude, all of those things are going to help you navigate your path. And it's going to help you stay on track and be less disappointed, be more resilient when it comes to achieving any goal, especially a health, wellness, and self-care goal that you really want to work on. So remember that this journey is just as important as the destination, and that every step that you take today brings you closer to your ultimate goal, and that this journey is not about you versus someone else. It's about you versus you, the you are today versus the you were in the past. And really trying to figure out what you can do that can be really simple, that you can do today to take action towards the bigger goal that you want to achieve. I am so grateful for all of you guys, and I thank you so much for listening. And my gosh, I am also trying to explore the growth versus fixed mindset mentality. And so I hope you look a little bit more into that, because I think that can make a really big difference in your life. I will see you guys back here next week. Thanks again for listening. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found value in this podcast, please rate, review, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends. Together, we can take tiny, imperfect steps towards creating the whole health we desire and deserve. Don't forget to grab your freebie. You can find the link in your show notes or over at triciard.com. I'll see you back here next week.